Hey everyone, James Labrie from Dream Theater, and you're listening to or watching the podcast Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian. Enjoy this. These guys are extremely informative. I love their dialogue. I love their interpretation of the songs, who and what we are, what we were going after. They're very accurate in their interpretations and descriptions, and I just think this is a great show, and these guys are doing a stand-up stellar job. So once again, enjoy Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian.
Welcome to another episode of Talking into Infinity, a Dream Theater podcast. I am your host, John. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, talkingintoinfinity.com, and the cmsnetwork.com. And we are live every other Thursday right here at those four locations at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So come and jump in the chat with us. We can bring you up on the screen. You can be a part of the discussion. Check us out. Video replays are available on our YouTube channel or at Heavy Metal Television. Go subscribe to Heavy Metal Television. It is an awesome place to find hard rock and heavy metal news. There is a ton of fantastic content. There's a number of great shows like ours. So you guys should definitely check out Heavy Metal Television. It is awesome. So normally at this time, I would bring in my esteemed co-host, Brian. But Brian is actually sick. He's been sick for a good week and a half. And he's been trying to get over it. It is not COVID. He assured me that it is not COVID. So he hit me up about 20 minutes ago and he said, dude, I can't do it. He said, I talk for 5 minutes and then I start coughing uncontrollably. And I said, that would make for an awesome podcast. So it's just going to be me tonight. So all you guys that are viewing or listening, feel free to jump in and throw in your comments. You guys are going to drive the show tonight. I figure we're just going to, bullshit about some Dream Theater tonight. Obviously we've got some news. Kale, what's up, man? Kale says, oh, just John. Cool. Kale McLeish, good to see you, buddy. Puziani's here. Our new buddy Puziani. He said, I got my pizza. Let's do this. All right. You got to tell me what's on that pizza. It better be pepperoni sausage and extra cheese, man, 'cause that's the way to go. So let's dive right into the actual news of the day where Dream Theater is concerned. They dropped a second single from the new record yesterday, Invisible Monster, and I'm very interested to get your guys' thoughts on this. My initial reaction to it was that it was very a rite of passage-ish. It's there are not a lot of high spots in the song. It's a good Dream Theater song, but there's not those, there's no crazy high notes by James. The solos are great and everything, and that's cool. Melodically, it's very interesting because they go from a minor to a major and stuff like that. I'm not as musically well versed as Brian by far, so he'd be able to explain it better. But it was a good song. I really like the clean guitar parts that are in there. I thought the intro part was cool, and the other clean guitars. I thought it was first of all tonally it was great, and it was like it was cool. I really dug it, and I just think nothing really stood out to me. So I would have to say that I think that this is going to be, and I'm not saying it's a weak track, but I'm saying I think that this is going to be the weakest song on the album. Again, my initial reaction was that it was very much like a rite of passage off of Black Clouds. It was, it's cool. It's like, it's fine, but you think of all the other songs on that record before you think of a rite of passage. And I feel like that's where this one's going to go. Rock and Roll Podcast, what's up, man? He says, I agree. It's an okay tune. So when you say okay, do you like it or do you not like it? So is it just kind of there? To me, it was just kind of there, which is not a bad thing. Dream Theater to me does not have a bad song in the catalog except for one, which, we'll save that for the album deep dive for that particular record. There's only one song that I'm like, skip, and another one that's close. And ironically, they're both on the same record. So, it was cool. The lyrics are pretty standard. Nothing crazy in the lyrics. Nothing crazy really anywhere. I think it's because we are spoiled as Dream Theater fans. Like, it's a phenomenal song, but we're used to so much more. And I think that if you're talking about, the Alien being the album opener, and that kind of sets the tone for the rest of the record, as Brian and I talked about on our album opening songs show. Excuse me. And, this one being the quote unquote low spot of A View from the Top of the World, I think we're in for a kick-ass record. I really do. And, we've got friends that have heard the entire album, and some of them say it's a top 3 Dream Theater record. So, again, if Invisible Monster is the low point of this album, I'd say we're in for an ass kicker, which is very cool. So, K.O. McLeish, he says, funny thing was, when they dropped the teaser, I heard it with Gran for the first time. We both said, this sounds very James Bondish. And then immediately there was a golden eye on the screen. Well, there you go, man. And he also says, but I'm kind of meh on the song. I think I'd be a lot more excited. For the song had Alien not come out first. It's like the new Guns N' Roses song. I like Hard School a lot more because of Absurd. Well, Absurd is absolute trash. I have not heard Hard School yet, but Absurd is absolute trash. So you could like anything more than Absurd, because that song is just terrible. That's not Guns. That's an awful Guns N' Roses song, and it's not a good song, period. I don't know what band it would be good for, but if that's a good song for a particular band, that band sucks. So, all right. So Puziani has answered the question. His pizza's pepperoni and green peppers, sweet, spicy, and looking like Christmas. All right. Green peppers are the one vegetable I can tolerate on a pizza, along with spinach. I'll go with green peppers, but anything else, I'm like, nah, let's not do that. So, yeah. So a little bit of a show note here. So we were supposed to be doing top James LaBrie vocal moments tonight. Obviously, we're not going to be doing that. So we're going to reshuffle a little bit. The next show was going to be the Distance Over Time deep dive. We might stick with that, or we might do the James thing. But for anybody watching, excuse me, I absolutely blew my voice out last weekend. I was singing, and I went to the first Browns game at home in 2 years. So I was, using my throat a lot. So I'm still recovering. But anyway. So the next show will be 2 weeks from tonight, obviously. So October 7th, and usually we're on Thursdays, but the following Thursday would be October 21st. We're bumping it to Friday, October 22nd, and we are going to do our immediate reactions to A View from the Top of the World. So if you are watching live, please jump in with us. If you are watching the replay, jump in with us. If you're listening on the audio version, feel free to jump into the live show on YouTube and Facebook and all that. We want to get everybody's reaction to the new record the day that it comes out. I don't think it's going, in fact, I know it's not going to be our usual deep dive, because we will not have, digested it a lot. It's just going to be, okay, we heard the record a few times. What do you think? And we definitely want all of you guys to be a part of that. See what everybody's opinions are. So, Jean-Philippe, what's up, man? Good to see you. How's it going, man? So there are a few things I kind of wanted to hit on. When my buddy Matt was on the last episode, we were talking about Score. We dove into that one and talked about our trip. There were a few, rock and roll videocast. Your video from the Browns game would trash anyone's voice. Yeah, my voice was pretty much shot by that point already, but that just shows how much I can yell. Is that even when I'm shot, I still have volume. So. So, K.O. McLeish, he says, can I join in on that? I'll have had it for an extra day so I can say it with a little extra distance. Yeah, man, you're more than welcome. Let's do that. You can definitely do that. I had my buddy Matt on last episode talking about Score. If you haven't checked it out, it's our longest episode. It's about 2 hours, so it's a long listen or view, but it was a lot of fun. I had a great time hanging out with Matt. And there was a few things that I did not get to hit on, not necessarily, concert related, but I did have a couple stories from that trip. So I kind of wanted to dig into that. Like, as long as I'm rolling without Brian, I do have some pretty wild Dream Theater stories of my own. So I figured I would kind of throw those at you guys tonight. So we went to Score in 2006, and we stayed at a hotel. I want to say it was like 30 blocks from Radio City. And, we should have cabbed it, but we're like, man, each of us had only been to New York City maybe once or twice. We're like, let's walk around. So during the day, we walked from our hotel room all the way to New York City, idiot, to Radio City, to make sure that we knew where we were going, because we wanted to get to the show that night a little bit early because we knew there'd be a ton of people, and we wanted to get in and get some merch, because we knew they were going to have some exclusive merch and this, that, and the other. So we walked the 30 or so blocks to Radio City so we could scope out the neighborhood, knew where we were going, knew where the entrances were, so we could get in quickly and get to the merch lines and stuff. Matt really wanted the Dark Side of the Moon DVD and CD. That was actually where they released it for the first time from the Yitzhak Jam collection, was at Radio City. So if you were at Radio City, you got first access to that, the Pink Floyd release that they did. So we walked down there, and we're like, okay, we know where we're going. Now let's go do something else. So we're in front of Radio City, and we start walking, and we look down the next street, around the building, and there's a side entrance, and we see Mike Portnoy. We're like, holy crap. And there's only like 6 or 7 people around him. There's the mobile recording truck that, was doing obviously the live recording for it. And he's standing there just signing stuff for people. And I was like, holy shit. So I go running down there, and I was wearing the 2004 Train of Thought hockey jersey that I had bought at actually Madison Square Garden a couple years earlier, which that's another story I can get into. So I run down there, and Mike is just about to go in the side door, and he's like, all right, one more. So he, comes over, and I was like, thank you very much. It's cool. We talked for a second, and I said to him, I didn't think I'd find you here. Meaning, I didn't think you'd be outside talking to fans and stuff. Like, I would figure you'd be inside doing stuff, preparing for the show. And he looks at me like I'm an asshole. He goes, well, I got to get in the building somehow. And I was this close to going, man, no, Mike, no, I meant going in the door, you dummy. But then I stopped at the last second. I'm like, maybe don't piss off Mike Portnoy when he's being nice enough to sign your hockey jersey. Like, so I got kind of a snotty remark from Mike Portnoy. So that was pretty awesome. So we did that at Score. That was just a blast. As I told the story, on the show previously, I actually was in the documentary. It was what's it called? The Score So Far. So if you own the DVD version of Score, if you go on that documentary, I'm actually in it, and I actually have a screen cap of that. I froze it here on YouTube, and let's see here. So what is this? Now it won't work. Alrighty then. Well, we're not going to do that. We will stop sharing. That looks great. All right, so now my green screen's going on the fritz. So there we go. Arizona Mike, what's up? Phoenix Mike, what's up, man? Good to see you. How's it going? Good to see you, man. Awesome. So, all right, so my green screen's not working, but whatever. So I go down there, and we, as I said earlier, we had walked to Radio City, so we knew where we were going. We wanted to make sure we knew where we were going. So we made sure to get down there that night for the show. I think it was like an hour and a half early or something like that. We really wanted to make sure that we weren't caught in any lines getting in. And I knew, as you guys, as huge Dream Theater fans know, when they do a live release, they tend to have like fan interviews. They film fans at the show, this, that, and the other. And I was like, I'm getting on camera, damn it. Like, if I see a camera, I'm getting on camera. I failed once. That's my next story. And I was determined at Rock and Roll. Your solo show sucks. Just kidding. Look, man, I'm doing the best I can. So I was bound and determined to get on camera if I saw a camera. So we're across the street from Radio City. It was about an hour and a half, 2 hours before the show. And they hadn't quite opened doors yet. And I'll never forget this. We were getting ice cream. So we're at this ice cream truck across the street from Radio City. And all of a sudden I hear this cheer go up to my right. And I look down the street, which is where, the side entrance where I met Mike Portnoy. And I see like this floodlight and all these people screaming. And I see like a boom. I was like, that's a camera. And I left Matt standing there. Like, he had to get my ice cream for me and stuff. Like, and I just ran across the street. I mean, this is busy New York City traffic, and I'm dodging cars going across the street, like getting honked at and stuff. And I run up, and they're looking for people, to get on camera. And I ripped my, I had the hockey jersey on, and I had a shirt. I was like, I've got the Majesty symbol. I got the Majesty tattoo. So they're like, all right. So they call me over and they put me on camera. And they said, well, okay, so how many times have you seen the band? And I was like, well, I've seen them in, Columbus, Chicago, Cleveland. I've been to Las Vegas. I've been to like 6 or 7 different, and I told this little story, inadvertently not realizing that I had told a lie. I've never been to Las Vegas. So why in the hell I said on camera that I had seen them in Las Vegas, I have no idea. But it made the DVD, and it's right at the part where Mike Portnoy says, if you want to see the true story of Dream Theater, look at fans. They'll see us dozens and dozens of times and multiple times on a tour. And I'm the first one. Like, coming out of that break, it's me talking about how many times I've seen Dream Theater. And I didn't realize that I had lied until, Score came out. And Matt, my buddy that was on the show 2 weeks ago, hits me up and he says, "You are so full of shit." And I said, "What?" He says, "Go watch the documentary. You've never been to Las Vegas." I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? So I put in the the DVD, and I'm watching this, and sure enough, I'm saying I've been to Las Vegas. I'm like, oh my God, I've never been to Las Vegas, much less to see Dream Theater. So I got caught in a total bullshit lie. Right there, it's on camera for everyone to see. So that was a little ridiculous. But the reason I was bound and determined to get on camera was because, and my green screen is not going to work, so screw it. I'm just going to have a green screen behind me, so whatever. What an engaging picture for the live people to see. So prior to the Score show, I had gone to the final show of the American leg of the Train of Thought tour. And it was also in New York City. It was about 2 years before. And it was at Madison Square Garden. But it was in the theater at Madison Square Garden, which is like a venue, like it's like above the actual arena. It's weird. But for those of you that are familiar with NFL football, it's where they used to hold the draft. So you see the old drafts where they had those like almost look like Christmas lights, like in a line going across the ceiling. That's the theater at Madison Square Garden. And it was my buddy Jimmy and I. And the seating in that place is basically 3 sections. There's like section 1, which is, first chunk, and then section 2, second chunk, and then section 3, third chunk. And my buddy Jimmy and I were front row, third chunk, about, I would say 6 to 8 people off the aisle. So we had really, really good seats. We could see everything. And so we go to the show. I bought the hockey jersey. The 04 Train of Thought hockey jersey. That's the one I got autographed by Portnoy at Radio City. And we're at the show, and Mike Portnoy had been doing his solos that tour, and he'd been like removing like a floor tom, or one of the, it varied per show from what I read, but he would take like basically a tom off the kit, walk it to the center of the stage, and start soloing, on the tom, and then he'd call somebody up from the first 3 rows that were the, the VIP seats they had paid for the package, and they get to play with them and stuff like that. Like, okay, everybody's having fun. So Joe Gebhardt, worth the lie. Yeah, I kind of agree with you. It was worth that lie. I'm on a Dream Theater DVD, man. So that doesn't suck. So yeah, so he comes out to do his solo at Madison Square Garden. And he does the same thing. He pulls the tom off. This was like one of the mid toms on the right side of the Siamese Monster, so the heavier side. And he, does his thing, and then he's literally soloing on the floor. He's soloing off his own shoe. Like, it was crazy. And then he gets somebody from, the front row to come up and do it with him, and I was like, okay, cool. Well, then he says, this isn't fair. Only the people in the good seats get to do this. We need somebody from the back. Like, get me somebody from way in the back. And I play drums. Like I play multiple instruments. My main thing is singing, but I do play bass guitar and drums. And if I was actually good at one of them, it would be drums. And so like a minute later, there's one of the crew guys, not like 3-4 people away from me, sitting there in the aisle looking for somebody. And my buddy Jimmy's just going, dude, you play drums. You play drums. You got to tell him. And I absolutely froze. And I was, because I have like ungodly stage fright. If you ever saw me perform live, you'd never know it, but I have horrible stage fright. And I froze. I was petrified because I'm like, holy crap, I could play drums with my mind was blown. And I was like, oh my God, my buddy's like, what are you doing? Tell him you play drums, you dumb asshole. And I didn't I just froze, and all of a sudden Mike Portnoy says, "Hey, get that guy in the white shirt there in the back. I've been watching him all night. He's been rocking out." No, he wasn't. That guy was sitting there like a bump on a goddamn log. And the only reason Mike noticed him at that point was because he was in a white shirt while the rest of us were in all black. So that was bullshit. So he takes this guy, and my buddy's like, "You are the dumbest idiot on planet Earth. What are you doing? Look what you could have done." So Mike brings this guy up on stage and sets him right behind the kit. So Mike is on the left side of the Siamese Monster, the more proggy side with all the high stuff. And this other dude, this fan guy, is on the right side. So he's literally sitting next to Mike Portnoy doing a drum solo with Mike Portnoy at Madison Square Garden, the most famous arena in the world. So, and the guy was not good. And I'm watching this guy play going, "Oh God, that could have been me, and this guy's not good." Like Mike would do this thing like gug 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 gug. And then he'd point to the other guy who's supposed to go gug 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 gug. And the guy couldn't get it. I mean, it was that simple. And I was like, "Oh my God." And I'm thinking of stuff you do, like, let's do like speed fills, like, and all these different things. So anyways, I blew my chance. So the story does get worse. Several months later, my drummer in my band at the time, he got a line of credit at Guitar Center, and he went on a spending spree, and he found Mike Portnoy's latest instructional drum DVD. He had just put it out like that month or something. So he bought it for me. He's like, "Hey man, like, I thought you would like this. Like, I thought of you when I saw it." I was like, "Dude, this is so cool of you. Thank you." So I sit down, grab myself a few beers, and I put it in. I'm watching some stuff, and it was, stuff from like 6 Degrees and everything that, he was doing stuff on, like, and it was great. So I'm a big behind the scenes guy, like, special features. So I put in the special features disc. And he's got all these different drum solos. I think it was like three, but one of them was a big compilation of him with like famous drummers. It was like Richard Christie from Iced Earth and Howard Stern. It was Charlie Benante was one of them. So all these guys. One of them I think was from it was the Awake tour. So it was a very early one. And then he gets to the third one. And he's sitting there talking. He says, "Okay, well, this next solo comes from the Train of Thought tour in 2004. And I was like, "Oh, sweet. I saw that show twice." He says, "This particular solo comes from the theater at Madison Square Garden." And I went, "Oh, dude, I was at that shit." "Oh, you got to be kidding me." So not only did I blow playing on stage with Mike Portnoy, okay, so that's one. But number two, I blew playing with Mike Portnoy on stage at Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena. But number three, I would have had it recorded for all of posterity. So if anybody ever doubted my story, like, I put in the DVD, like, "See, that's me on stage at Madison Square Garden with Mike Portnoy, dude." I blew it so bad. So, and my buddy Jimmy never, ever lets me live that down. To this day, he brings it up like every other conversation, man. Oh, it's the worst. So, yeah, that was my coulda, woulda, shoulda moment. J3, what's up, man? He says, "Drums are impossible for me. My friend's a great drummer. I can sing, play bass guitar, and keyboards. I'm hopeless when it comes to drumming. He tried to teach me multiple times." Dude, for some reason, I took to drums right away. I taught myself how to play drums to the first 5 Metallica records. So I'm pretty much more of like a metal drummer, but and I'm just very heavy-handed and stuff, so not a lot of feel, but I can definitely, if you throw me up there to play in a cover band, I can definitely rock through stuff. So that's yeah, Joe Gebhardt, he's right. "And the guy who couldn't play drums ended up on a DVD." Yes, he did. Oh my God. All right, so Kale brings up something. I have not heard of this. So Kale McLeish, "The one solo I really wanted to watch wasn't there. I really wish there was video footage of the Mangini and Portnoy duet from 6 Degrees. I did not know they did that." Wow, that's kind of like a whew, I don't even know how to phrase that. Wow, both of them. That's kind of wild, especially looking back at what happened now. That's crazy. So yeah, so I blew playing drums on stage with Mike Portnoy. So that was, and I did meet him a few years later at an in-store, and he actually signed that DVD, and I told him the story, and he goes, "Man, you're an idiot." So basically, I got dissed by Mike Portnoy twice. So that's kind of a little bit of my fan cred. I got crapped on by Mike Portnoy twice, so that's so that was cool. So if you guys have any Dream Theater stories, like hit me up in the chat. We could definitely bring it up and talk about your stuff. I can even send you a link if you guys want to jump on camera real quick. I've had a lot of experience with the band members personally. I think the very coolest one for me was actually my first one, which was in 2002 for the 6 Degrees tour. And my buddy Chris Aiken, who actually runs Heavy Metal Television, Brian and I mentioned him on the last show. He damn near died from COVID a couple weeks ago. So thankfully he's better. It's awesome. He's getting back on his feet and everything. So, but he used to run a music magazine here in Cleveland called Music's Bottom Line, and it was strictly, just a small little music newspaper, but like it had circulation of it went to music stores and all kinds of crazy places like pizza shops and stuff like that. And it had a circulation of a good 50,000-60,000, units every month. And it was a cool little magazine. And he let me write for them. I did album reviews and stuff like that. And he actually hooked me up with an interview with Jordan Rudess for the 6 Degrees record. So I was at work at the time, and I was working in a call center, and they let me just take some time on the actual work phone to do an interview with Jordan Rudess. So I talked to Jordan for about, I'd say 20, 25 minutes, and I was like, man, this is amazing. Like, I'd never done anything like that before. It was the first time that I had interviewed, a rock star. And it was great, and I started transcribing the thing, that night, and the next day, the publicist called me and said, "Hey, would you mind interviewing James LaBrie as well?" And I was like, "Holy shit, no, I wouldn't mind." like as a singer, like my two favorite singers in the world are James LaBrie and Sammy Hagar. So this for me was like, are you kidding me? So they set up an interview. It was on a Friday. And at the company I was working for, the whole company worked a half day. So you went in at 9, they closed at 1. So we scheduled the interview for 1:15. That way I wouldn't even have to worry about work, and I could take as long as I wanted on the company phone and record my interview. So I'm talking to James, we're going through stuff, and I'm talking about the tour and the record and everything. And I asked him, I said, because they had just started doing these 3.5-hour shows. It was the evening with. And I said, man, I'm a singer myself, obviously not on your level by any means. I'm a local guy. But how do you make it through 3.5 hours singing this, this vocally acrobatic material, 4 or 5 times a week? And he literally went through, I would say it had to be 30 to 35 minutes of just singer talk with me. So we had done about 20 minutes of an interview, and then he spent over half an hour just telling me about singing, well, here's the exercises that I do. And, here's I bring on the road, I have a cooler of fresh fruits and vegetables. And I'll never forget, he told me a supplement that he took. It was called Citrical. And he's like, I take the Citrical stuff to help my immune system and all these different things, like the temperature of the water that he uses, personal steamers, exercise regimen, all this stuff. And I asked him questions, and literally it was just him kind of giving me professional, singing tips from a guy who does it for a living and has done it, for, over a decade. And he just sat there bullshitting, singing with me and helping me out, giving me all these tips and stuff like that. And when we got to the end of the conversation, I was like, dude, I can't thank you enough for jumping on. I mean, first of all, it was an honor to interview you. You're one of my 2 favorite singers. I absolutely love what you do. So thank you for your time. And the singing stuff was just incredible. He's like, no, man, I appreciate it. No one ever asks me stuff like that. So it was really, really cool. And I said, well, I'll be at the tour here in a couple months. And, I'll try to get backstage to meet you in person, but I don't know how that works. So I probably won't, but I don't know. And he says, oh, September 3rd in Cleveland, right? I still remember these dates because this is the coolest rock star moment I've had outside meeting Eddie Van Halen. And he says, oh, September 3rd in Cleveland, right? And I went, yeah. He says, well, I'll put you on the guest list. And I was like, what the hell? I was very naive at the time. I hadn't been in the business for that long, and certainly not on a professional level. So I didn't know. I figured he was just telling stories like, oh, he's just being nice to me, whatever. So I didn't think much of it. But I thought that was like the coolest thing for him to even say. I was like, wow, dude, that's really cool. So he says this, and the show is like in 2 months or something. First of all, I couldn't believe he knew the exact date of the Cleveland show. I was like, what the hell? So like a week before the show, I hit up my buddy Aiken, and I said, hey, I got a really weird question for you. He said, what's up? And I said, well, I talked to James Labrie and did the interview, and he said that he would put me on the guest list. Like, did they just say that? Is that just the thing? He goes, no, man. Like, they do that for you. I'm like, well, what do I do? He's like, call the publicist and see, what they say. And okay. So he gave me the publicist's number, and I called her up, and I said, hey, my name's John Drake. I write for Music's Bottom Line. I interviewed Jordan and James a few months ago. James had mentioned that he would put me on the guest list. I mean, is that, what do I, she goes, oh, yeah. She says, you're on the guest list in Cleveland. Yeah. She says, he did that not even 5 minutes after he got off the phone. He said, you've been hooked up for months. And I was like, what the hell? So that was so cool. So we go to the show, and phenomenal show, obviously. And we go backstage. I brought my best friend, Matt Dixon. We've been best friends since kindergarten. Him and his brother, Andy. So since 5 years old, we've been best friends. And I told the story on our very first episode how his brother, Andy, same age as I am, he's the one that got me into Dream Theater inadvertently when I was 16 years old. So we're back there, and Jordan comes out. And we met him like, oh, cool. Hey, man, I interviewed you. He's like, yeah, cool. You interviewed me. And we're talking for a second. Awesome. John Petrucci comes out. We're like, holy crap. Like John Petrucci. Like, oh, my God. So we talked to him for a minute. And then James comes out. And he meets my buddy Matt. And he's like, hey, man, thanks for coming to the show. And Matt's like, man, you guys sounded great. And I shook his hands like, hey, what's up, man? I said, first and foremost, I have to thank you. You're the guy that got me these passes, and I really appreciate it. And he literally looks me in the eye and says, oh, you're John Drake. And I was like, what? So, I mean, from an interview that was like more than 2 months prior, and this guy tours around the world in all these different places that he plays. He remembered both my first and, just remember any of my name. He remembered my first and last name. That was so unbelievably outrageous to me. I couldn't even believe how cool it was. And, myself, like I told the stories on the show, but I play in a cover band on weekends now. I did the whole original band thing, almost got a record deal in 2003. And, I've always taken it to heart to be very professional and very polite to everybody. And to have James do something that cool, like to put me on the guest list and to remember my name and remember the show date and give me all these singing tips and stuff like that, I have always carried that with me as like, that's how you should act. And he even says it in the Rich Wilson book, which you guys should definitely check out. It's called Lifting Shadows. I'm actually in that as well. I'm one of the people that prepaid for it. So I'm in the back of the book in the honor roll list. I'm that nerdy of a Dream Theater fan. But James says something it's really awesome in the book. He says, when you're going through and doing, these meet and greets, people are coming back and seeing the band. And, for you, it's like you're 50 or 60 the show. You're tired, you're bored, you might be in a bad mood, not feeling well, but you have to be on your A game because while for you it's your 50th or 60th show, for the person you're talking to, it's their first and only show they're going to see on that tour. So you have to always be up. You always have to be cool to everybody. And that's just everything about the way the guy carries himself is just like, it's so professional and so polite. And I try to emulate that. I mean, it sounds stupid. I'm a 45-year-old man, like emulating, other people. It sounds kind of dumb, but like, I really try to emulate that because it's such a kick-ass way to behave when you're a musician, when you're in a band. And I've always had a huge problem with musicians that are dickheads. And I mean, if I find out a band is a bunch of jerks, I can't follow them anymore. It's just something about that really irks me. And Dream Theater are the exact opposite. Like I said, I've met James a couple times now. I've interviewed John Petrucci. We'll have to put that up on our page at some point. Me and Chris Aiken and I interviewed Petrucci, and it was so funny because Aiken is not a fan. He keeps trying to get into them, but he can't. He doesn't like the long songs. He says they're undisciplined songwriters. Take a drink here. So he says they're undisciplined songwriters, this, that, and the other. And we go to interview John. And the very last question, he says, okay, John, I need you to settle this argument. Me and my buddy John here completely disagree. I say that you guys are completely undisciplined songwriters, and John says that it takes a ton of discipline to hold someone's ear for the length of time that you guys, for your songs, like for a 10, 12, 15-minute song, it takes discipline to hold someone's ear. And John laughed. He's like, wow, that's a good question. And he answered it, and he went through, and he said he thought about it. He's like, I'd say you're both right. I mean, he was so cool about it. Like, he basically just, my buddy Aiken just flat told him, like, you guys are undisciplined. And he answered it, and he laughed, and he just went right in. It was so cool. And so, I mean, the guys in Dream Theater are just like the nicest guys you'll ever meet. They are so accommodating, and they're my second favorite band, Van Halen being number one. And, when a band is cool like that, it makes it so much easier to be a fan of theirs. You know what I mean? It's just incredible. I had the best time talking to James, with that interview, and then of course, to meet him, and then Brian and I did the meet and greet thing for the Distance Over Time tour in Chicago, which was cool. They were really accommodating, and I actually, the background on my computer is from that tour. We did the VIP, and I basically when you get your picture taken, I don't know if any of you guys have done it. But in a minute here, I'm going to go through some comments here, and I want to get your guys' take on this stuff. But when you get your picture taken, you basically the band stands there, you stand in the middle, and you get your picture taken. Well, I walked up and I was like, "Hey guys, I have a really weird question. Is it possible? Can I stand next to James? Because James, is always on the far left." And I was like, "Dude, he's one of my two favorite singers. Like, I love all you guys." Like, I felt so bad asking, like I was dissing the other guys, but. And I went, "Can I stand next to James?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, go for it." So in the picture, like, and I didn't want to touch him because you don't know if you put your arm around him or you don't want to be, over the top. You don't want to be that guy. And so I just kind of stood there, like, with the double devil horns. But he put his arm around me and did he was the coolest freaking guy. And every time I've met or talked to them, they've been like that. And it's just, Brian and I think we told the story when we were talking about Black Clouds. We ran into Jordan just walking in an alley behind a 1,300-seat venue in Columbus, Ohio on High Street. He was just walking, and we were looking for a parking spot. We drove, and we're like, holy shit, that's Jordan Rudess. So we pulled up alongside him, rolled down the window. We're like, hey, Jordan. He's like, hey, what's up? We're like, hey, have a great show tonight. He's like, thank you. You guys going to the show, obviously? We're like, yep. He's like, well, have a great time, man. Great to see you. Thanks for coming out. I was like, just walking, and he's cool. It was like little things like that are just great, And even, I told the story about Mike Portnoy, kind of dumping on me a couple times. He wasn't dumping on me. He's just a very direct person. And I knew he wasn't like, oh, you're a dick. He wasn't calling me names or something or treat me like a jerk. It was just, he's a very direct New York guy. So, yeah, if you guys ever get a chance to meet the guys, definitely do that. All right, let me go through some comments here. So let's see. JG3 says the most unique Dream Theater thing I saw was them playing Repentance in New York. The only time they played it. It was cool, but just not a great live song. Those ending ahs go on forever. I will not comment on that song because it will spoil a future episode. But if you can read between the lines, I may have already talked about it tonight. Let's see. Joe Gebhardt says, haven't met any of the members. I've only seen them 3 times total. Once in Kansas City and twice in Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte hasn't been the best venue for sound. That's an interesting thing to say, like, based on sound. Like, I've seen them with some terrible sound before, and I've seen them with great sound. It's like kind of, the best I ever saw them when they played in Cleveland for the Train of Thought tour. That was incredible. They played at a place out here called the Agora, and man, the album was heavy and the production was heavy. I mean, it's like, it was like modern metal records, like a Testament record that Andy Sneap does, just is like monstrous and fat, and you put it in the car and turn it up, and it's just punching you in the face. That's what that show sounded like. I don't think I've ever heard a show, period, have sound that good. So that was awesome. JG3 says, singing long shows is very difficult. I don't think people realize how difficult of a job he has. It's one thing to sing a song, but to do an entire night, multiple nights a week, is a vocal marathon. Yeah, I 100% agree. As a cover singer, again, I'm just a cover band guy, so I'm not getting on a high horse in any way. But I do 45 to 50 songs a night, and it wears on you. And I've done a lot of back to back, so basically, in a weekend I'm doing between 80 and 90 songs, and it's tough. I mean, you definitely have to watch your breathing, because if you're only singing from your throat, you really blow it out. You got to watch how much water you take in, how much you're actually talking outside of the show, the food you eat, like sodium will dry you out, like all these little things. And so, to your point, Jay, about, people don't realize how difficult of a job James really has. I'll just say it. I'm a James fanboy, and I have no shame in saying that. I think James, pardon my language, is fucking great. People are talking about how lately it's been, a little spotty here and there. I don't personally care. I think it's been fine. I mean, yeah, he's had some moments, would like, okay, could have done that better, this, that, and the other. But if you look at other guys his age that are doing, that have been around as long, they sound like absolute trash. So, James, I will never, ever fault James for anything, because number one, as we just talked about, he is a great guy. Absolutely great guy. But number two, like, he tries to take care of himself in the best way possible. So every time he's out there on stage, there has been so much work put into that. And I will never, ever fault someone for anything that they do. Like, does he sound like he did in 92? No. But the guy's in his late 50s. We're talking about 30 some odd years later. Like, it's a natural aging process. Behind the scenes, he's working his ass off to absolutely kick ass for us every time he's on that stage. So I will defend him till the ends of the earth. And, it always, God, it burns my ass. Like, you see these people that are, they post their cameo videos of him, and people are like, oh, that doesn't sound good. Like, he'll sing a song for somebody and people bust him like, that's not how it goes, or he sounds like he lost a step. And it's like, the one thing that so few people bring up about those cameo videos is people ask for a song. And instead of just hitting it like, oh, here's how it goes on the record, he extends lines. Excuse me. He extends lines. He hits it powerfully. Like, he's trying to give these people something more than what they paid for. And the guy only charges $55 for these cameos. Like, you can have James LaBrie sing any song you want to you for $55. And that is peanuts for a guy at his level and his talent, and he still tries to go above and beyond. And so when people like dig at him for certain things in those videos, I'm like, man, shut up. Just shut up, man. You have no clue. James is amazing to us as fans. He's amazing to us on stage. He's just great. So, if that makes me a fanboy, if people want to rip on me for that, that's fine. I will take the beating, because I would much rather defend James LaBrie and be called a fanboy than be lumped into that category of people that shit on a guy that works so absolutely hard and is so appreciative of the position that he's in. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to filibuster, but I guess I'm filibustering the whole time though, since I'm doing a solo show. But Rock and Roll. Sorry, guys. Rock and Roll Videocast. That's how Eric Carr was. I actually just read Carrie Stevens' biography, which not going to lie, I read it because she's a hot 80s chick, and I was like, ooh, what's going to be in here? But it's not what you would think. It's actually a really, really good book. So if you guys are Kiss fans or, fans of like the 80s, like, her book is really, really good. So definitely check that out. She taught, obviously, she was Eric Carr's girlfriend. She was the person closest to him. And that's what she says. And that's what everybody has said, that Eric Carr was just absolutely the sweetest guy ever, which is awesome. JG says, the first thing I remember about meeting the guys was how much taller than them I was. I always imagined they were taller than me, but now I can't unsee it, especially Mangini. Dude, I thought the same thing, but I was ready for it because I met Anthrax in 98. It was on the Volume 8 tour. I met Anthrax. And when they came out, Frank Bello was up to like the bridge of my nose, and John Bush was like under my chin. I couldn't even believe how short he. And I'm only 5'10", so Frank Bello is like maybe 5'8", and the rest of the guys are just like they're I'm like, what the hell? So that was pretty shocking. That was pretty shocking to me as well. So I think I was ready for Dream Theater. Rock and Roll Videocast. He gets it. It says, being a singer can suck. We have to watch everything we do with our voices. Yeah, I have a show Saturday, and I wrote the set list tonight. And thankfully, it's only a 90-minute show. It blasts right through. So I purposely added the heavy stuff at the end, like we're doing. I purposely ended with Pour Some Sugar on Me, Man in the Box, One Way to Rock, and Your Love by the Outfield. But, I could do that at the end of that show because I don't have to play tomorrow night on Friday or on Sunday. So, I can just, just completely blow it up, Jerry C., what's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. Says, you can't escape old man time. Damn straight. And again, James puts in so much effort. He really works at what he does. So I will never, ever fault him, man. I am such a huge fan of the guy. It's not even funny. And it's funny because I the same year that I interviewed Dream Theater, I interviewed Sammy Hagar, and I was actually the first journalist. I wasn't a journalist, so air quotes for those of you listening on the audio. But I was the first guy that got Sammy Hagar on tape saying he would actually reunite with Van Halen, which to me as a Van Halen fan absolutely blew my mind. And I've met Sammy and I've interviewed him twice. He is absolutely the nicest guy. So my two favorite singers are both the coolest guys on the planet, which is just amazing. So Joey Puzziani, nobody like Labrie. Totally agree, man. Totally agree. Brandon Charles says, talk to Portnoy for a minute when they released Systematic Chaos. Eddie Trunk rushed me off the phone, but Mike was very engaged and kind. Man, you got on Trunk's show, huh? Good for you, man. That's cool. That's a big show. That's a really big show. Joey Puzziani says, I dare anyone to try singing to perfection The Astonishing with all its parts, nuances, accents. None of the critics could do it. Puzziani, by the way, I'm always going to call you Puzziani because we're Italian, so I can do that. That's how we do it, You are so unbelievably correct. The Astonishing is absolutely his pinnacle. I always thought Awake was the most amazing thing, and then The Astonishing came on. His vocal performance is just to do all of those characters differently, and the emotion that he puts in, and it's fantastic. I mean, it's a very polarizing record. Obviously, one of my goals for the show, by the way, is to have one of the guys on, hopefully Petrucci or Jordan, obviously, and actually do an Astonishing episode talking to them about it and dig into it because I'm one of the guys that loves it, but. I mean, love it or hate it, if you're a singer, you have to be impressed by what James did on that album. I mean, it's crazy. Kale says, I'm working in 45-minute sets for Deadeye. I definitely appreciate Labrie more and more to think how much he's been through and cost himself for us, the fans. Yeah, I mean, he really does. He works his ass off, man. And it's, if he doesn't sound quite like he does, and I mean, let's be honest, with the new singles, the Alien and Invisible Monster, you can hear that he's definitely writing now for the live environment. He's not taking as many vocal chances with those high screams and stuff like that. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to have limitations now. I'm at a certain age, so I'm going to write stuff I know I can do live. And it's a very, very smart way to go. And I give him all the credit in the world for that because a lot of guys don't. They're just like, oh, I'm going to scream my nuts off on the CD. And then when I go live, it's going to sound different. But, screw them. I got my money. I get paid. Guys like Vince Neil and David Lee Roth, like, ugh. So, Puzziani. I prefer Puzziani. So we're one soul. I got you. My last name is Drake. That's, my dad's name. But my mom's maiden name is, I told you, De Rosa. So if you want to call me De Rosa, you feel free. JG3 says, I used to do hardcore vocals and I blew my voice out before, so I don't do them anymore. It's just not something I want to risk. FYI, I mostly do theater, pop, or light rock. Yeah, I mean, dude, singing is so much harder than people know. I mean, I don't subscribe to the theory that singers should have an attitude and be above other band members. The term LSD, everybody's heard that, lead singer disease. I think that's 100% bullshit. I do think, though, that it's cool and the other band members should respect that, as a singer, our instrument is physical. So, if you have a cold or, if you're throwing up your guts, you can still play guitar, you can still play drums, you can still play bass. But if you have a cold, you're throwing up your guts, you really can't sing very well. So, it's I've been very fortunate in my, again, air quotes, career. I've been playing since I was 18, so 27, 28 years. All the guys I've played with, save for one, has been really cool. If I'm like, hey, man, my voice is a little off here. Can we move things around? And the one guy that was a jerk about it, a year ago, he was in an acoustic duo, and he had to start doing the lead vocals himself, and he was never anything more than barely a backup vocalist. And I got a text message from him 2 months ago, and he says, dude, I owe you so much of an apology. I can't believe what it takes to get through these shows. And I'm like, and you gave me shit while we played in a band together, dude. So, you know, Brandon Charles says, agree about the haters. Dream Theater still performing great music. Not sure why they hate or what they expect. Yeah, it's, you know, it's so hard for me, man. Like first of all, I hate social media because people are just assholes on social media. I stay on it because I've got the show, you know, I've got my band, I've got my Star Wars show, the Nerf Herder Council, and I have to promote. But these fan pages, again with the air quotes, apparently I'm into air quotes tonight. The way people just crap on things, and they're just so rude. It's like, why? Especially with a band like Dream Theater. Like, I mean, like, and I get it. Like, you know, if you're listening to the show, if you're watching the video, first of all, thank you guys. Love you guys very much for checking it out. Obviously, we're huge fans, so we're going to be a little bit biased. But I would challenge anyone to come up with a band with a history as long as Dream Theater's with this much quality. I mean, comment, you guys that are watching. Comment if you think that Dream Theater has a record that actually sucks. Is there a Megadeth Risk? Is there a Metallica Saint Anger for me, Load and Reload as well? I mean, seriously, they have not put out a crap record. Even my least favorite record, I still think is great. So I don't know what fans of this band want. It's why I love the lyrics on Never Enough on Octavarium, because Mike Portnoy is just basically pissing on the fans. Like, shut up. What more do you want from us? And I agree with him. You know, they put out so much content and so much product, and they're always working. And it's all such top quality stuff. It's incredible. You know, yeah, I mean, Kale says it. He's got it right. He says, there's albums that are less good than others, but none of them have ever been crap. Yeah. I mean, yeah. JG3, I think I pissed him off. Hey, I take that comment personally. I like Risk. Ha. Dude, you better send me your email address because I'm going to get you on camera. Nobody likes Risk. That's not a true statement. That record is garbage. Risk by Megadeth is absolute shit. No offense. I know you like it, so I don't want to diss you, but that record sucks. That is garbage. The only good song on that is Prince of Darkness because it sounds kind of Megadeth-y. The rest of it is good. So, Kale, I like Risk too. Well, look, man, you're wrong as well. You and Jay can, you and Jay can get together and go do a show about how good Risk is. Because, I mean, I would tune in and just be in the comments telling you it's garbage. So, yeah. Oh, here we go. Okay, so Jay's right. Super Collider is garbage. Yeah, that's another one. Yes, that is another one. Yeah. So, to my point, Dream Theater has not ever put out a record that you're like you just completely skip it. Again, I have a least favorite record. We have not done a deep dive on it yet, but still, I would listen to it. If I was on a desert island, like you can only have one Dream Theater record and this is it, I'd be like, cool, I got a Dream Theater record. So it's like, sweet. All right, I'll take it. So for people to crap on their stuff and kind of complain, like the one complaint that I never understand is like you see in these fan groups, oh, this is just rehashed. This, like, what about it is rehashed? It's prog. They can go in a million different directions. There's always something different. And even if it is a little bit derivative, they've been around for, close to 40 years. What do you want? I mean, good God, man. They're putting out their 15th studio record. They had the Majesty demos before that. They've had umpteen live albums with how many jams on it. Like, a few notes are going to get repeated here and there, dude. So I don't understand it, Shandelli, what's up, man? Haven't seen you before. Thanks for tuning into the show. Appreciate it. Shandelli says, it's true. All Dream Theater records are really good. Yeah, you're not wrong. What's that old joke about pizza? It's like sex, even if it's bad, it's good. Like so, Dream Theater's like pizza, or Dream Theater's like sex for eardrums. Like I guess. So, yeah, and okay, so Jay, I'm glad you brought this up because our next episode in 2 weeks was supposed to be our deep dive into distance over time. We might do our favorite James moments, but I think it's still going to be our deep dive into distance over time. JG3 says it's very rare for bands this late in their career to release an album as high quality as Distance Over Time. I completely agree. One of the things that has been absolutely incredible to me, when Portnoy left the band in 2010, obviously, the first release was a dramatic turn of events. I was like, okay. I got to get to a couple of Puziani, my dude. I met Portnoy once in public on Long Island, and he said, "Oh, another nerd." I'm not sure if that was a compliment or not, and I've been wrestling with it ever since. He's just dude. He's a New Yorker. They're very blunt and direct. You know that. And then he says, Dream Theater isn't like pizza. Dream Theater fans are like pizza. Some fans are supreme and some are pineapple. I love it, man. I'm totally with you. So to your point, Jay, about the quality of Distance Over Time. So, the first post Portnoy release obviously was a dramatic turn of events. I was like, cool, okay, this is good. It felt like something was missing to me. And please bear with me here. Like, I'm not comparing Def Leppard to Dream Theater, but I'm going to make a correlation here, a personal correlation in a second, but don't crucify me. When Steve Clark passed, and then they put out, what was the one after Hysteria, Adrenalize, I think it was. Like, it sounded like a great Def Leppard record, but something about it sounded like there was something missing to me. And I don't know if it's because, like, mentally and emotionally, I knew an original guy wasn't there doing the writing, but that's how it felt. And a dramatic turn of events felt that way to me. And then, the self-titled came out and it still kind of felt that way to me. But then the Astonishing came out and I was like, okay, like this is like a return to form. Like, this is good. Like, say what you want about the Astonishing. I'm a huge fan. And I was like, this is great. But it was so polarizing. And I think the guys went in for, Distance Over Time and were like, this is a question I would love to ask them. Like, was a Distance Over Time a reaction on your part to the backlash that you received from a portion of the fan base, for the Astonishing? Because I really feel like it was. And Distance Over Time is awesome. And from what we've heard so far of A View from the Top of the World, this one kicks ass as well. So I feel like they're in this like second half of their career and they've hit a stride because you got The Astonishing, then you got Distance Over Time, and now you're going to have A View from the Top of the World, like 3 kick-ass albums in a row. And even if you don't like The Astonishing, you're going to at least have 2 kick-ass albums in a row. And I mean, really dominant, good records. So JG3, I think that is an incredible point because, I mean, it really is. Like, how many bands can you say that when they've been around for over 3 decades, putting out some of their best work at that point? It's really hard to find a band. I mean, seriously. So, Cale McLeish, I took that personally. Pineapple is great. Not on pizza, my friend. Not on pizza. Brandon Charles, take that pineapple comment back. It belongs. I'm telling you, man, Puziani and I, we're the Italians in here. We're telling you, no pineapple on pizza, dude. Let's just not do that. That's no. Italian sausage, just that belongs. Pepperoni, that belongs. Let's leave it at that. So, great point, JG3. Distance Over Time is absolutely fantastic. I think, and one of my favorite aspects of that record again is the comeback aspect of it. Because I think there was a large portion of the fan base that were not big fans of a dramatic turn of events and the self-titled. Then the Astonishing comes out and they're like, oh my God, like, what is this? And they didn't like that. So a Distance Over Time, or Distance Over Time comes out. I think that is definitely like a comeback record and a half for fans that didn't like those previous albums. I think it's a very undeniable record. I'm going to be giving away some of my thoughts for the deep dive in a couple weeks, but I think it's an undeniable record. I don't think there's a Dream Theater fan out there that can say, well, this is at the bottom of my rankings. Like, And if there is, they're in the very, 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 very big minority, or very small minority, excuse me. Because I think most fans would be like, holy crap, this record's great. It was a return to form. I hate using that term. It's cliche, but it really was. And I mean, it sounds great. The songs are great. It's when Brian and I do our best of episodes, it's hard for us. We've talked about this off air. It's hard for us to not lean on a record like Distance Over Time. First of all, because it's so recent, but second of all, there's so many great moments on it, and we don't want to kind of like have recency bias, but also it's like there's so many other things, but it really is one of their best records. So JG3, he says the biggest issue I actually have with a dramatic turn of events, through the astonishing. So the biggest issue I actually have with a dramatic turn of events through the astonishing is the mixes. Richard Chicky is just not a good producer. I'm sorry. There are literal glitches and mistakes on the record. Okay, you're going to have to clarify that. Like, what are you hearing that are mistakes and glitches? That's interesting. I would say I would agree with you in terms of the mix on a dramatic turn of events and the self-titled. The Astonishing, I would disagree. I think The Astonishing sonically is one of the most beautiful albums I've ever heard. I think it fits the vibe of the music. I think it fits the vibe of the story. Everything about that record just ties together for me. It really it's just a total package of a presentation. It's absolutely brilliant in my eyes. I fanboyed out on James LaBrie earlier. I'm going to fanboy out on The Astonishing now. I love it. I think it's perfect. It's phenomenal. It's one of the best things they've ever done. It's absolutely incredible. JG3 says Distance Over Time and A View from the Top of the World are a real breath of fresh air with great production. Kale McLeish, I can't argue at this point. Bring back Kevin Shirley for my money. Yeah, Kevin Shirley definitely kicks ass. I think they stopped working with him because he's probably a little opinionated, and they obviously want to do stuff on their own, and obviously they're entitled to that because they haven't really gone wrong. But Puziani, Astonishing for the win. There's my boy again. We Italians, we stick together, man. Okay, so JG3. On the X Factor, I think, there's a part where James' vocals just cuts out on the last line. Okay. The Enemy Inside has a blip at the end of the instrumental section. This Is the Life has some issues. Damn it. All right, Kale, this is on you, man. You're the nitpicker of all of us that are in the chat. You're going to have to go find that. You always do that. So, all right, JG3, thanks for bringing that up. Kale's going to go do some research for us. So, also JG3, some of the auto-tune on the album's tunes to the wrong notes. That one, I find that hard to believe. I'm not questioning you, but I've never heard anything where I'm like, what the hell was that? I don't necessarily know about that. Kale, fuck. You know you're gonna do it, Kale. I'm not telling tales out of school. If I hadn't have said it, you still would have done it and gone looking for it. So, yeah. So, real quick, I want to give a shout out to something that's non-Dream Theater related, but it is kind of Dream Theater related because I think all of us are fans of this band. Let me get a drink here. So I was watching. I bought the box set for Operation Mindcrime. It came out 2 months ago or something. I finally got a chance last weekend to sit down and watch the whole damn thing. Man, there's not a ton of extra content on there, which is really kind of sad, but it looks and sounds great. If you guys have a chance to go get it, it's only like $65, and there's some really cool stuff. There's like a book that comes with it, tells stories about the record and the production and things, and it sounds awesome. And Operation Mindcrime is absolutely that's in my top 3 favorite records ever. 1984 by Van Halen and And Justice for All by Metallica are the 2 most influential records in my life. And if I have a number 3, it would definitely be Operation Mindcrime. So definitely go check that out. Trying to think what else we can hit on while we're talking about Dream Theater. It's been a little over an hour. Seriously, guys, I got to thank you for covering for Brian. Like I say, he does not have COVID, but he is sick, and he just didn't feel up to doing the show. He was watching the Rush movie 2 weeks ago when we talked about Score, so that's why I wasn't there. But he's definitely coming back. I promise Brian will be coming back, and so will my green screen. So, yeah, you guys have been awesome, man. Just in case we don't say it enough, we really appreciate you guys who tune in live and jump in the chat. If you're watching on Heavy Metal Television, YouTube replays, or if you're checking out the show in the audio format, man, we love you guys. Thank you very much for supporting the show. Brian and I have an absolute blast doing this, and it's a lot of fun to talk about Dream Theater, but it's awesome to have you guys be a part of it. And he and I are very proud of the fact that you don't see many shows doing what we do, which is, bringing you guys up and making you a part of it. It's very important to us that you guys are a part of this. So, again, later on this year, we're going to be doing the huge fan get-together, which is probably going to be like a 3 or 4 hour thing, and we want you guys are going to email us your email address. We're going to bring you guys on screen with us. We got some great stuff coming up. We talked about, Monty Colvin from the Galactic Cowboys coming on when we do our deep dive into Images and Words. We're going to do the deep dive, and then Monty's going to come on and tell stories about touring for that record. So we're doing that. So yeah, you guys are just great, man. Appreciate you guys a ton. Let's see. So Kale says, having seen a local production of Les Mis lately, I must say, astonishing as a major theater production would be amazing. That was kind of one of John Petrucci's things. Like, he wanted to do this like huge production and all these different, formats of it. And I think, stage play was one of them. And I really think that it would work. I hope that the Astonishing really gets more love as time goes on, because I think it's so underrated, and it broke my heart on that tour because, I saw it twice. I saw the Astonishing tour twice, and the first one was at the Chicago Theater, obviously in Chicago, sold out. It was absolutely incredible, and I was like, holy crap, this record's good. And then the second time was in a suburb of Cleveland up here, called Lakewood, and they were doing it at Lakewood High School Auditorium. And there was not even 300 people there. And a few of my buddies from Lima, that's where my cover band plays at, they were going to the Toledo show, and one of them knew the promoter and had told me that it was like 2 weeks before the show. They had literally sold 65 tickets for that show. So at the end of that tour, that's when they started actually doing encores and playing other songs, because the ticket sales had just, from my understanding, I can just say, speak from my experience from being at the Lakewood show and hearing about what happened in Toledo. The ticket sales were down so far that they had to do something to draw people in, and they stopped doing we're only playing the Astonishing, and they started adding, encores of playing other stuff, Pull Me Under and all that crap. I really hope this record, as it ages, starts getting more and more fans, because I just think it's incredible. I mean, first of all, it is so ballsy. Or was, it's 2017. So ballsy to do a record of that scope during, the late 2010s, whatever. I mean, the attention span of the music listener is so low. So to put out 2.5 hours on a double disc of this monstrous story, and you got to look at a map and you got to read the lyrics, and that just takes balls. That alone I thought was absolutely kick-ass. And it was like one of the most Dream Theater things to ever do. So I love the concept from the get-go when they announced it. Excuse me. But then the music was great. And, the story itself was great. Again, excuse me, guys. It was such a phenomenally well done thing. And I really think if you took that album and if you put it out, say, 20 years earlier, so instead of 17, you're putting out like 97, it would be so much better. So much, it would be well received. How do I phrase this? People would have accepted it much more. It was great. And I think it was such a ballsy thing to do in 2017, and I just think people's attention span weren't there. A lot of the criticisms I've seen of that record, I just think are not founded. I don't agree with them. And everyone's entitled to their opinions. That's cool. I'm fine with that. I just don't happen to agree with a lot of the opinions. I think it's a great record, man. I think it's a great record. So, it's going to be interesting once we get into the astonishing, I don't know if we're gonna do like a 2-parter for that one because it is 2 discs, but I think it definitely deserves digging into. And again, I would love to get one of the band members on to talk about the record and really kind of dig into that. So that's also something we will have coming up. We are going to have band members on the show eventually, hopefully. My buddy Aiken that runs Heavy Metal Television, he's the reason we're on the CMS network. He's the reason I interviewed John Petrucci and James Labrie and all these guys. Not many people are doing a Dream Theater podcast, so he's pretty certain that he'll have good luck getting us one of the band members. So if we get an interview with one of the guys, we will definitely let you guys know. It may have to be a pre-record, so you guys can't jump in, but I have asked Chris to let them know if we get this, if they can schedule it for time to be right on our show so that you guys can actually ask questions of the band. I think that would be kick-ass for us to interview, James or John or, Mike Mangini or Jordan. Obviously, John Mayung doesn't talk. But to have one of the guys on and we ask our questions, but then we can bring your guys' questions up and you guys can actually talk to them. I think that would be the coolest thing ever. So that's what we're shooting for. One of the other things that Brian and I would like to do, we would like to actually try and get Derek Sherinian on. I don't know if that's even possible. We don't want to piss off the Dream Theater camp. We also don't know if Derek would talk about Dream Theater, but I've been very vocal about the fact that Falling Into Infinity is my favorite album, and I would like to get Derek on and talk about Falling Into Infinity. I think that would be a really kick-ass interview. It'd be a great time to talk about it. I think that would be fun. I think that'd be fun. Like, get the guys on and actually have you guys ask questions. We could talk about our favorite records and stuff. And Puziani, he says, Dream Theater makes music for musicians, and we look to them to consistently define the ideal. The Astonishing set a huge ideal layered with music, story, and stage, like what Trans-Siberian Orchestra wishes they were. I don't know if we can bring in Trans-Siberian Orchestra to this because they are doing like Christmas music, and I don't know if that really correlates. And the other thing I would take issue with, Puziani, is I would say Dream Theater makes music for musicians. I mostly agree, but I've talked to a lot of people at Dream Theater shows that are not musicians. They're just fans of Dream Theater for whatever reason. They don't play, they don't sing, but they love Dream Theater. And I always thought it was like you said, like music for musicians, but JG3, how about a therapy session with Kevin Moore? That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Rock and Roll Videocast. Thanks, John. Great show. No, appreciate you, man. I told you, Rock and Roll, man. Like when you were worried before we went live, like you're going solo. Like how are you going to talk this long? Oh, if anybody can talk, I can talk. So, yeah. So why don't we close up shop on that one? I mean, you guys have been awesome. Seriously, I can't thank you guys enough. Kale and Rock and Roll, JG3, Puziani. You guys are all awesome, man. All you guys that have jumped in here. Shandeli, it was great to see you for the first time. Please jump in here again. We appreciate you, man. Brandon Charles. You guys have been fantastic. Again, Brian and I really appreciate you guys taking part in the show, downloading, viewing, however you guys take in, Talking Into Infinity. We appreciate you guys very, very much. Seriously, like we do this without you guys. We just love talking about Dream Theater, but you guys make it even more fun. We love that you guys are a part of this. So thank you very much for checking out Talking Into Infinity. Don't forget, we are live right here on Facebook, YouTube, talkingintoinfinity.com, and the CMSnetwork.com every other Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to check out video replays, go to our YouTube channel, or better yet, subscribe to Heavy Metal Television. You won't believe the amount of stuff you will find on Heavy Metal Television. There are some fantastic shows. Aftershocks, Poppet's Corner. You get anything from classic metal with Skull Sessions with Bob Nalbandian, an absolute legend in the LA metal scene. He's been around since Metallica was formed in 81. So there's tons of stuff on Heavy Metal Television. Go check that out. There are phenomenal shows there. If you want to listen to us in the audio format, just Google Talking Into Infinity. We're at Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those great places. So you guys absolutely rock, man. Thank you so much. To my buddy Brian, Hope you're feeling better, buddy. I cannot wait to get you back on here, man. It's been fun these last couple shows, but it's not the same without you. So you guys are all kick-ass. And, hey, we will see you in 2 weeks. We will be live on Thursday. What'll it be? It'll be Thursday, October 7th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys be safe, and we'll